And welcome to the Totally Radical Mixtape podcast with Charlie and Paul, your home for nostalgic and deep dive chat about 80s and 90s pop culture. Paul, what do we have lined up for today's show?
All right, so we'll be taking a look back at 1984's comedy classic Bachelor Party, starring Tom Hanks. Then we'll get our roll of quarters ready and hit the jump button into the history of arcade games. We will discuss the years surrounding the golden age when arcades were the social center of every mall in the country. And you can level up by sharing what your favorite arcade game was of the 80s in the comments below.
You can also help our show get some extra lives by liking and subscribing to us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Plus, exciting news. Our first merch has arrived. So now we have stickers of the Totally Radical Mixtape podcast for the back of your phone. So that way you won't forget to listen to our show every week. So for the first 5 subscribers this week, we're going to send you out one of these official first run stickers of our podcast. So please like and subscribe. Get on the bandwagon. You'll never miss our show because we're going to do a lot of them.
All right, well, thank you for that plug, Charlie. Later in the show, we will be showcasing our favorite 5 games of the era. But for now, let's grab your wildest friends, jump on the bus, and let's talk Bachelor Party. It's showtime.
It is, and that's without further ado, we have one of the most iconic movies of the early 80s, and also was the launching point really for Tom Hanks's career. Probably one of the most prolific actors of our time. Tom Hanks, this was his second role that actually he had in a major film. Do you remember, Paul, what TV show he was on there for a little while?
Yes, Bosom Buddies.
That was and whatever happened to his friend? I mean, Tom Hanks went on to bigger and better things, but man, talk about not a lot of balance.
Did Tom Hanks destroy lots of people's careers? Because even Bachelor Party, there's a lot of that as well.
Yes, there definitely was that. But yeah, I mean, I think, I think really with well, actually, I apologize. The other question I wanted to throw out there real quick was, do you remember what movie he was in before Bachelor Party, which was his actual first role?
Am I answering that, or are the people answering that?
Little of both. Can you beat Paul to the answer? Again, if you throw a comment in with your answer to the question, again, we'll throw you a sticker out to subscribe and we'll get our information from you. But what do you think, Paul?
I've already given people long enough to type it out. I'm going to say Splash.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, wait, Daryl Hannah.
Okay. Daryl Hannah. Very good. Very good. Yep. Yep. He was into some mermaid love back in the old days. But yes, that was a huge movie there. And then I think once he had this sort of ensemble cast of a couple of people that he had, I believe the wife of his brother, or I think his brother-in-law or something that was on Bosom Buddies also.
Yes. Exactly. I had to look that. I was going to ask you. I was going to look that up.
She was the neighbor across the hallway, if I remember correctly. But okay. Yes, she was a major. They were both proctologists. That's what it was. I'm thinking about the rubber glove when she said, "No hookers, Stanley. No hookers. I told you, no hookers." She
actually had a really good career. But she died like at 47 or something.
She did. Yeah. So very
sad.
Tragic. But really, again, I think back like with our first show, we talked about Fast Times at Ridgemont High and really sort of it being like for us, us older guys in their 50s, these are sort of these preteen or early teen movies that mom and dad didn't want you to watch, so you'd have to kind of sneak the VHS or wait till they go to bed and watch some of this stuff. And this was a pretty rowdy movie. So again, let's kind of think about the plot summary a little bit. So again, for those who haven't seen it, so thinking back on it, you've got essentially Rick Gassko. I was his best man. Rick Gassko is marrying his beautiful wife, Tawny Katane, who, interestingly enough, always I thought was a very perfect selection for that role. But interestingly enough, there were others who were considered for that role, and they actually hired Kelly McGillis, who at the time was, I don't know, had Top Gun come out by then? I think
Yeah, I was gonna
Top
say,
Gun was.
yeah, Top Gun, right? Was I don't know. I look it up, but
Yeah, I think she was, but she was a top end talent at that time, and they signed her. Plus, Paul Reiser of Mad About You fame was going to be the counterpart, but they had issues with chemistry between the two, so they ended up deciding to go another route. So then they looked at Jim Carrey, Howie Mandel, Tim Robbins. I mean, these would have been horrifically bad choices. It's amazing how it kind of works out for the best.
Tim Robbins is definitely not in the same funny comedic positioning as Jim Carrey and Howie Mandel. Jim Carrey was just coming out as well, right? I mean, his next role may have been Pet Detective.
Well, I think that's probably the In Living Color days, if I remember correctly, when he was Fire Marshal Bill, and kind of helped launch his.
Let me tell you something.
Oh my God, it's fantastic! Just timeless stuff.
By the way, Top Gun was in '86.
86. Okay, so Kelly McGillis was just another pretty face back in '84. But yeah, I think, and you think sort of the physical comedy of Tom Hanks, again, just sort of the the silly personality, at least of his early career, before he started taking on more serious roles like The Money Pit.
I wrote down that he was allowed to explore. He gave me vibes of Robin Williams.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like that one scene where he's doing the paprika. I don't know if that was scripted or not. That was phenomenal. He was just all over the place with the Swedish meatballs and.
Yeah, that's he would have been a natural for a YouTube channel later on in life, as far as doing a cooking show. Now he probably has produced 10 or 12 of them. I think if you look at Tom Hanks's credits on IMDb, I think he's credited as a producer in like 160 different things. I mean, you talk about somebody with a little bit of extra coin laying around.
Yeah, his portfolio is just beautiful. It's just beautiful how he stretched his career out. Even the ability to pull off a one person show, unless you want to call Wilson another person, but Castaway was just amazing.
Yeah, but and so let's we'll kind of rather than knighting Tom Hanks here, let's we'll shift into the movie plot again for those that haven't seen it. So essentially, Rick is about to marry his fiancée Debbie. Debbie has very rich parents that don't think much of Rick. Rick's current occupation at the time is he's a school bus driver for a Catholic school.
Yes.
Which
Classic.
Is just that's the first time I had ever seen a one of the wobbly nuns for the dashboard. That's the first time. And remember, I think it was an Aloha nun or something like that.
Underneath.
If I remember that. Yeah, that silly little detail. But so ultimately, what happens is, he proposes. So his friends are all insistent on doing a bachelor party. Obviously Debbie's not super happy about that.
But let me say, that's 31 minutes into the movie. They really build a lot of stuff up to the actual party. So anyway,
it's like they made an effort really to develop the supporting cast. It's like the one, like the grease monkey guy, and then you sort of set up the proctologist couple. I mean, everybody got like their 4 minutes on screen, so you really kind of were vested in the outcome of what was going to happen from this bachelor party. Even Adrian Zemed, if you remember, the best man himself, who was a professional photographer, and also I remember him taking a picture. Right, he pulled the one lady's shirt down just a little bit and was saying hi with the tatas and things like that. But so I mean, they did a nice job of building it up, and really a couple of the wrinkles that they ran into. The girls were going to do their bachelorette part. But they did more of a bridal shower than a bachelorette party. But then as a prank, they sent over 2 strippers over to their bridal shower. And if you remember, they were, they brought the whips and the
Vibrator.
Self massagers. Yeah, I was going to be classy about it. The oyster blaster. I mean, if you really want to go that direction, but then some of the things, again, the things that I remember about the film, and actually before I moved past it, the film was actually inspired by the producer's bachelor party himself. So I always got to think in the back of my mind, that guy must have had a hell of a bachelor party or a hell of a budget, one of the two.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So that definitely helps. So anyway, so you got the deal with so the bridal shower gets invaded by the strippers. So then they get upset. So then they go to a strip bar, a male strip bar, and that's where they were introduced to Nick the stripper. What was Nick's nickname?
I'm not gonna say Nick the Richard.
Right, Nick the Richard. So they met Nick the Richard, and this was the first time in my my adolescence that it ever crossed my mind that someone could put their Richard in a bun like that. So I was like, all right, well, that's something to consider maybe for later in life when I want to get thrown out of a place. But you know, something to consider there. And then as far as what happened once they got to the bachelor party and everything was going on, it was in full swing. Place was crazy. I mean, you know, there's people everywhere. And one thing that happened during this party was there was a donkey show. So what was interesting about the donkey show was they smuggled the donkey in, and the donkey didn't want to be recognized. So the donkey actually came in disguise. So that way, you know, the paparazzi didn't, you know, get wind that the donkey was going to be heading up to the party and everything. But really, I would say the quintessential moment of the movie was really when the donkey decided to hit the drug table. So when people were coming into the party, you know, they said hookers to the right, drugs to the left, or maybe it was vice versa. So it's obvious to me that the donkey chose this route in lieu of the hookers. So
I love the close up of the donkey's nose sniffing the cocaine.
That's hilarious. I mean, that is just timeless.
I don't know how much they spent on the actual making of that, because unless this donkey was that amazing to sniff it by himself, I'm like, that's really good prop.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's it's one of the things I've never forgotten about it is just really
raunchy,
kind of over the top. I mean, you know, I wouldn't even say and some of the little side jokes, like the one suicidal friend who was trying to slash his wrists with an electric razor because he wanted to make him more smooth and kissable. I mean,
there's some great writing, some great comedic parts to it. I wrote down that it felt like a police academy movie before I looked further on, and maybe we'll get to that later. But the characters had familiarity to it. So one of the things I wanted to point out was I threw on this to make a point. When you look at the bachelor party, you know, photo right there, and of course, maybe that's obviously the marquee. That's the DVD, VHS, whatever you want to call it, movie poster. Rick isn't wearing that suit, by the way. They're all wearing the strangest things. I think two of them came in a suit and a tie. One came in like a racing jacket. I think the grease monkey mechanic came in his actual, like, he had grease stains on his clothing. You know, and of course I love Gary. Gary was
the best.
The nerdy guy that reminds me a bit of Mike Damone. He was into concert tickets. And
yeah, that's true. That's true. I did not even think about that.
He was the one that, which, by the way, I'm going to throw this out before I forget. There is a lot of 6 degrees of separation of people. So again, Tom Hanks with the bosom buddies, with the people who directed it and moved on to something, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. But so those watching and listening, pay attention to this, because we've found so many tie-ins, and it's been crazy, especially even with who's competing for these roles. But yeah, Gary he's the one that was in charge of bringing the hookers. Now, I counted, or I tried to count how many times they used the word hookers, and I got up to 25. They used hookers.
That sounds
Word
about
hookers
right.
25. It was
Yeah.
it was crazy, but She Tim was it actually
Yeah.
a character, She Tim. So and he actually was a professional female impersonator in real
Well,
life.
that was right around, I think, when the Crying Game had come out. I think maybe it was the year before
Oh,
that, if I remember correctly. So maybe it
we're
was
not
a
gonna
reference to that.
feature that on the show, are we?
That's not one of my top
No.
top 500, I don't think.
Please, no.
But it was an interesting rate for the hookers, like, what is it, $75 for 15 minutes, or milk come for you, or something like that.
45.
45. Yeah, I was gonna say 15 would be a little bit of an aggressive pricing structure. So, so I mentioned also Tawny Katane. This was probably it was the upswing of her
Yeah.
career, because
Yes.
later she was in the videos with, she dated David Coverdale of Whitesnake, and then later married Chuck Finley, who used to pitch for the Indians, and I know beat the living crap out of him, and actually got locked up for spousal abuse. So that was kind of a side
Yeah.
sidebar for her.
And DUIs, and was attached to she was a Seinfeld girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she was attached to, she dated OJ, or maybe was involved with OJ while he was married to Nicole Brown. Dang it, forgot her name.
She had her finger in a lot of pies. She was sort of that generation's Tara Reid, I would say.
And she was a 1987 pinup girl, but she died before she even was went into serve the DUI. She died in 2021 at age 59. I wrote down.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Here's a bachelor party extra that we didn't talk about ahead of time. What did you do for your bachelor party?
Not even close to this. I mean, I know I got drunk, but I didn't have hookers or a donkey.
Right. No donkeys.
Or a completely filled hotel room. I think. Oh yeah, we shot guns, rode go-karts, drank beer, and I can't remember the rest.
So I was married in the 90s. Currently in a relationship right now. We're not legally married, so I've only ever had one official bachelor party. But it was in 1994. I executed poorly because I chose to do the bachelor party the night before the wedding. And that was more of a logistical decision, because I had somebody coming in from out of town, and I was just trying to kind of hold the line for them. So that was sort of the idea behind it. So we went to the Ritz Cabaret, which is on Baltimore Street in beautiful downtown Baltimore. Or maybe not the beautiful part, but it's a part of Baltimore. And my friends were kind enough to spring for me to go up on stage, where then I was later handcuffed to the pole. And then there was some entertainment that ensued at that point. I mean, it was nothing, it wasn't nothing not suitable for work, but questionable. It depends on where you work, I guess. So, but yeah. So
if you work at a Catholic school as a bus driver,
right. Well, never mind. Well, that would be okay, I think. Maybe.
Well, for him it was. I mean, just the first 5 minutes of the movie was hilarious with the kids in the school bus.
Right.
I want to mention something. Well, first of all, Adrian Zamed, I'm like, I recognize him. He's from Grease 2 and TJ Hooker, which I did love that. I love that show. But it didn't really last long. There was so much other stuff to watch. My boy Robert Prescott Cole.
Yeah.
I saw him and I went, why does he look so familiar? He's from Real Genius, which I think was a hilarious movie with Val Kilmer. It's really good.
That's and he was pretty pissed off most of the film, I would have to say.
He was a bad guy in Real Genius too, so I don't know if that's just he naturally picked up. I mean, he was a pretty good looking guy for the 80s and having that blonde, flowing hair, but he was such a dork, I guess a really good guy to hate. And they did a really good job of him in Bachelor Party. Brad. Okay. So So Brad is the guy in the picture in the background with the glasses on. His career didn't go anywhere.
No, never saw. He might have shown up in the TV show that came later, which was horrible. I mean, I remember, there's some shows that you really want to like, but they're just really terrible. That was this show.
Oh yeah, yes.
Horrible.
These spin-offs are horrible. I don't know if Gary did anything beyond this, but the guy above Gary's the guy underneath Tom's arm with the beer can. But above that, the fairly good-looking guy in the blue and red jacket, that's Mike Dudikoff. I also recognized him. He's from American Ninja and he did some stuff in Happy Days, but American Ninja was his thing. And if you look him up, he's like a filmmaker, not filmmaker, a film actor and martial artist. And he did like 4 of them, but I thought that was interesting as well.
Nice, cool.
But yeah, the guy above Tom with the big, huge bottle is his brother in the movie, and actually looked like his brother. So good casting there.
Yeah, I would have bought that.
This thing got 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, another movie that featured some interesting movie like Oingo Boingo, which I think was also featured in Fast Times at Richmond High. So there's your 6 degrees of separation. Adrian apparently is a singer, so he sang a song and
he did.
Yeah. REM was on the soundtrack in The Alarm. So interesting.
I'm picturing the song that the chicks were singing, and I think it was "Why Do Good Girls Like Bad Boys?" Yep, that was it. And then
I think there was this thing.
Right, and then Tom Hanks yells at "alligator," and everybody goes down.
Yeah. Now I like those kind of parties. But yeah, this was an interesting movie in that, again, the stuff they wore I thought was hilarious. They did have another mall scene, and very much like the 80s of what was going on at the time with the, you go shopping, and I don't know why they were showing girls just shoving clothes in their handbags to steal, and people were, there was neon, and I don't know. It was an interesting, I'm like, well, and the clothing, the fashion was really prevalent in this movie. But yeah, was the hotel in the movie featured in Ghostbusters? It looks so much like a Ghostbusters.
That lobby, I think that lobby's been featured.
Well, no, just the outside. I'm just saying the outside looked really scary, very structurally upright and whatever. But I cracked up that it was the only light when Cole was looking up there. It was the only light on the entire hotel that was on or something. I was like, that's odd.
Yeah, that was there. And then the crossbow being shot across into the hotel room. That was some fancy shooting.
And the Indian pimp.
Yeah.
I'm getting to go to here.
Yeah, very smart. So, but that's convention life for you, I guess.
I want to throw this at you. Did you notice that I believe this was the only movie since Speed to feature a school bus chase, or at least a bus chase? Because for some reason that bus was crazy fast.
Yeah, it definitely had some get up and go. That's for sure. And nobody's got seatbelts either on a school bus, so I mean, it just adds that whole another layer of excitement. So, but yeah, you spoke about the Rotten Tomatoes rating. Yeah, IMDb, there were a 6.3, and in retrospect, I guess that's probably fair. I mean, and it kind of wrapped up kind of as like a normal 80s movie did, where had all the great dialogue in the first 70 minutes, and then it just kind of fell on its face at the end. But
yeah, a critic said that it was 15 minutes too long, and the ending.
Yep.
Yeah, the ending was really odd but there was an aspect of 3D movies, and I thought that was neat that they put that in there. But I don't know. Again, does it really need to go in there?
Yeah. Well, and there was even like the little online factoid. Somebody mentioned that the aspect ratio they were showing on that movie screen wasn't what a 3D should have been. It's like,
okay, whatever,
thanks.
Dude.
Go back to mom and dad's basement.
Either way, even at 54% and however 6 point whatever or 6 whatever you mentioned, I would say if you and you put it in the banner earlier, if you make a movie for $7 million and it makes $38 million, well, damn, I don't think anybody can tell you anything. You're like, I just made bank. And Neal Israel went on to do Moving Violations, which has a crazy similar feel to it and a lead into like Police Academy.
Yeah.
And Moving Violations starred Brian Backer, who was Rat in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
God, sorry, I forgot this. Wow,
that's another tie-in, folks. Right there,
right.
Another tie-in.
The 80s was just one big formula and simulation, so we're just trying to figure it out 40 years later.
I think there's some directors who latched on to, because then after that was breaking the rules. There was a kind of a sense of, you know what, I'll take you, because a lot of these actors stuck to the, I guess, essentially B movies that just got them a paycheck and got them enough to where they didn't have to go flipping burgers or work at Mighty Mart. Right. But yeah, there was that kind of feel to it. Yeah.
Excellent. So, so what beer are you drinking tonight, Paul?
Oh, I am drinking. I'm almost done, actually. I wish it was bigger.
Down a little bit.
It's Enegren, and they really focus on a lot of German type of, you can even tell from the can, very German-esque. And if you're a fan of Vikings,
looks like the old Brow logo.
Lagertha is a beautiful blonde shield maiden Viking. But this is a hoppy Pilsner. If you haven't ever had a hoppy Pilsner, this is one exciting style that is emerging as a phenomenal beer. This is 45 IBUs. It's 5%, and they're out of Moore Park, California. And I love this part. It pairs well with spicy tacos, schnitzel, and pizza.
Well, of course it does.
What are you drinking?
I've got a North Coast Old Rasputin, which also is from California, right up the road from you there.
Yeah.
Imperial Stout, my favorite style of all. I do like a heavier beer. I mean, my midsection probably speaks to that a bit, but yeah, I do like a good flavorful beer. The Old Rasputin's been around forever. I mean, I know as the craft beer has evolved over time, and we'll talk more about this in future podcasts. For those of you that don't know, Paul is an award-winning brewer, so he's got he's probably forgotten more about brewing than I ever knew about. But we'll talk more about that as we go through and sort of feature what we're drinking. But back to my point, Old Rasputin's been around since the beginning of the craft beer revolution. I mean, I was drinking this around 2003 when I still thought Blue Moon was a good choice.
But yeah, I think a future show we will talk about beer, drinking, wine coolers, 80s.
Zima.
Yeah. God, you're already releasing the secrets, Charlie. Come on now.
Shoot. Zima was sort of like Crystal Pepsi with like 7% alcohol.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. What do you think? I think we might be done with Bachelor Party. Yeah, I think the party's over.
I think we're putting it to bed, and I think we're going to the change machine to get some quarters.
Okay, let's do it. All right, this is gonna be good, folks.
All right, everybody.
Nice.
So we are going to revisit the 80s when the arcade games first launched. And actually, technically, arcade games did start in 1978. Space Invaders was one of the first ones that kicked things off. But the arcade game, it's not just the games, and I think we've talked about that a little bit again when we talked about Fast Times on the last show. Back in our day, arcades were a big deal. I mean, it was the social center of the mall. And even growing up where we did in Pasadena, Maryland, we had multiple malls on Ritchie Highway, if you remember. We had Glen Burnie, we had Herondale, we had Jumpers.
Yep.
And all were equipped with arcades. Jumpers Mall specifically had almost a whole
Oh, no.
store front arcade. I mean, it was literally 60, 70 games. They had the skee ball if you want to win the tickets and all that
Mm-hmm.
happy nonsense. Lots of pinball machines. Again, very close to my
Mm.
heart. I grew up with a Elton John Brown Dirt Cowboy pinball machine in my basement, so I was able to hone my
Oh,
flipper skills from the time I was 5 years old on. So that certainly
try.
sort of lit the fire there.
I want to see the
But
graphics on that.
well, that was pretty. It was pretty analog, I would have to say. There was, I think, the digital numbers on the back of the screen was
I'm
about as
talking about the marquee of Elton John. Like, what exactly is Elton John looking like on the back?
it was pretty cool. I mean, you could actually probably, for those who are interested or into Elton John, if you
Rocket
Google
Man.
Brown Dirt Cowboy and pull up images, I bet you can probably see the back
Okay.
deck on that. But yeah, that was a neat machine. Again, it was free, and that's a good way to learn, because that's always the caveat of the arcade is, well, I'm going to learn to beat this game, but it's going to cost me a ton of money to try to get that done. And I know going to my father used to work next door to Jumpers Mall, and I would constantly go back and say, Dad, Cubert didn't go as well as I had hoped. Can I maybe go grab a few more bucks from you if I could?
You know, that's in that. This is that moment where we're at an age where you hopefully either had this conversation with your parents, or you should now before they're gone. You know, how annoyed were they us going and saying, can I get another quarter? Can I get another quarter? You know what? Just give me a roll of quarters. But when you say a roll of quarters to them at that time in 83, 84, whatever it happened to be, what does that sound like today? Hey, can you give me 20 bucks? I mean, I take my 13-year-old to an arcade, I think Dave and Buster's, which I think you might know.
Dad, can you preload my card?
$60. I mean, come on. It's just, because obviously the inflation in games do not cost 25 cents. But let me ask you this. All right. So to get a couple of ways you can get to the arcade, right? There's people that driven there because the mom or dad, more likely the mom, was shopping, doing something in the area. And if you think about it, what is the equivalent of well, malls aren't as popular and used. I mean, the one near us is dead, pretty much dead. But the idea that you can drop off your kid, and we'll get into this as well as another show, drop off your kid in the 1980s at a random arcade place and then go shopping and know that your kid's going to be just fine with enough quarters, that is. Because I think when it ended, you just walked around and watched people, right?
That's what I did, or just decided to see if I could go out and find windowless vans that had candy out in the parking lot.
or you put your finger in every single slot. Is there a quarter? Is there a quarter? Is there a quarter? Because that was it. That's the other thing I brought up is you queue in a line, right? So, hey, can I play? And you're like, well, stand in line, kid. You're not. So you put your quarter there, and that's my quarter, and then you wait. And then if you're behind somebody who's really good, then you're like, yeah, I still gotta wait. But oh my gosh, that would be the key. But then you drop that quarter in and nothing happens. Oh, that pisses you off. Yeah,
because you don't realize they upped the cost of 50 cents. It's like, son of a bitch, I got to go back and get another quarter. But now I guess you can just put your kids on a park bench and they've got a handheld thing that keeps them busy forever, or it's called an iPhone.
Yeah, iPhone and a leash that's attached to it to some sort of lock. I can't go anywhere. Are you really going to go anywhere?
If you leave your kid too long in the arcade, they end up like in the back of the bike shop in that Different Strokes episode, way in the back.
Oh man! All right, so other people have mentioned that they ride their bikes to the arcade. Which, if you were near the mall, man, how awesome would that have been to be able to just ride there and know you have enough to get a couple hours of gaming in.
Sure.
But yeah, I do remember going to Ocean City, and that was like a beautiful mecca because you walk along the boardwalk and
best air hockey everywhere.
I
mean, the old roller games where you'd roll the little ball down to get your poker hand, and then you get your tickets for that. I mean, there was what? So trying to. Do you remember the names of those spots in Ocean City? Because there was two. There was. It was right by the Thrashers. They were right in
Well,
front of
yeah, of
there.
course.
So you got to get your fries and then
That's,
go.
yeah. Yeah, and then you gotta put your greasy hands on all the knobs and buttons.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Go
Yeah,
punch, stay in a
man,
punching bag.
what did they do during COVID? They had to sanitize all that stuff.
Awful.
Yeah, we actually went to a place called Shakey's. I think it was called Shakey's Pizza. And they had games there. There's the arcades, but then there's the places that had the one-offs, pizza parlors and what have you. And you used to go there and play. And that, you wouldn't have the amount of people, the competition, but and I thought movies like, or the series is like Stranger Things, and certainly the movies that we're showcasing on the podcast have so far shown it really well, which I think we're eventually going to get to Tron, and I'm excited to see that movie again. But yeah, anyway, so it's really cool, really neat topic that you brought up.
Well, it's interesting as the arcade games became more popular, obviously the evolution of the home video games back in those days, we talked about this a little bit ahead of the show today. It was almost like Coke and Pepsi back in the old days, where there was Atari and then there was Intellivision. You had other Intellivision, and then the next evolution, I think, was ColecoVision.
Yes.
And I think Odyssey, there was an Odyssey 2, because I mean, if you go back to the original Odyssey, that was actually, you would actually put an overlay on your TV screen, and then it would supposedly line up with how the dots were on the television. That was like a 1977 thing. I remember my folks were beautiful enough to make sure I always had the latest games when I was a wee lad.
Really?
So,
oh, wow.
I would, but the interesting thing though, think about how much those cartridges cost back.
Wait a minute. You had a brother or sister?
Older, 11-year-old brotder, or 11-year older brother than me.
Oh, so, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. I had a 2.5-year-old brother, which, I don't know if that matters when it comes to getting more games, but we never really had a gaming system. But I do remember, I vividly remember going to my father's friend's house. His name was Jerry Going, and I have a bug here that loves beer apparently. And he was an older gentleman who was divorced, and he was living, I think he lived in an apartment or condo. Mm-hmm. And the guy had lots of money, and he had an Atari, maybe a 2600 or 5200 or something, and it was like, whoa. I just remember being blown away. Yeah, because he's also the one that had laser discs and all the new gadgets and stuff. So that was my introduction into the gaming system.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't like something I spent all of my time doing, but
I agree.
But
you brought up an interesting point in the beginning, though, because when I looked into the history of this, and I just, wow, it's really not. I mean, yes, they began way before the 80s. There was a lot of development. There was a lot of people that just got into. I mean, American ingenuity really topped out on the Atari side. Certainly, Japan came in like a colossal giant in the end there, but going and weaving in and out of the Ataris and the Taitos and the Segas and the Magnavoxes and the Mattels and the Colecos and Activision and the Bally and the Midway. It was crazy to see how many people got involved someplace and then jumped ship and went someplace else, and then they moved on to something. And it was a dog eat dog world. I mean, they crushed each other. They sold stuff. They backstabbed. It was not the best. And now I know why. There was a crazy spike, and hopefully you'll talk about it here soon, but a crazy spike and then a drop and a crash. So it was really unfortunate. But yeah, the idea that Pong is in 72, Tank in 74, Space Invaders in 78, but the fact that you could go to Dave & Buster's and play Space Invaders today is crazy. So the longevity of that game is awesome. And then just other stuff. Even the music, which we featured a little bit in the show, it comes on and it's huh? I know where that's from.
You're immediately triggered that, hey, that's when Mario eats a mushroom or something like that.
Yeah, that's our generation's trigger.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And and as time went on, I mean, the games obviously got better. The technology is amazing how quickly it got better.
Oh,
I mean, you
absolutely.
had by the 90s, you had your PlayStations out there, and then it was just a whole nother level of gaming. It became a lot more strategy involved. And as I got older, I still play games like Madden and some sports games and stuff, but I kind of got off the beaten path with it. But then what's interesting is this generation of arcade games have sort of reinvented themselves. I used to hear a little bit about what they call emulators, so you could get like these pirated things online, and it would have like 50 old games on it. So I mean, it would work okay. I mean, I tried it out, and it was decent. But ultimately what happened was there was these other companies, Arcade One Up was one, and At Games, which is a Chinese company. They started licensing these old games and then putting them into 3/4 and full size cabinets. And this is kind of how, yeah, exactly, like you got behind you there. Or and Christine got me a small Galaga, Galaxian, and Pac-Man. It was sort of a tabletop machine, and that sort of lit the fire with me. So then she got me Golden Tee, which was a little later in the 90s, but got a Golden Tee for the house. Outrun, which was an 80s sit-down driving game, which is pretty fun to do in the house. The Big Buck Hunter. But then sort of the piece de resistance of the whole thing is the At Games option. That basically, it's a full-size machine, has all the controls, a trackball, joystick, 6 buttons, and all that good stuff. But you can actually add a thumb drive to this, and you can buy this thing on Etsy for like $40. And now you've got access literally to every game that was produced from the mid 70s through about the year 2005, and it's all on one machine.
Yeah.
So
17,000 plus games in one cabinet. Now there's some playability issues with some games, and I'll get into that later. But I was, it's an odd thing, and I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know why I all of a sudden wanted to play, and I had to play. I couldn't stop myself, no matter what you did. For me to dive so deep into the research. And it's weird because you and I weren't really talking at that time. And in the end, I met you or reconnected with you, and it was like, hey, I just bought this cabinet. Oh, I have these cabinets too. And really, maybe I should have talked to you already about this, because it's a learning curve. And in the end, you get this fix. You finally, like, oh my gosh, I got to play, Spy Hunter, or okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
And some of these games, again, like as I look on the screen now, the ones that immediately jump to mind are games like Joust, the ostrich jousting game. So, I mean, when you're trying to learn this in the arcade, you're unfortunately seduced by, 25 cents to continue. Well, I'm at round 5, so sure, I'll throw another quarter in, and then that just continues. It's like chain smoking, but playing an arcade game. But being able to do that in the comfort of your own home, I can sit there and get my ass beat for a half hour and eventually get to where I want to go. Golden Axe, that's another great game of the 90s, if I recall. Actually, it might have been in the late 80s, but just a role-playing kind of game.
4-player.
Yep, up to 4 players. There was a bunch of those. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes. Love those, because if you, especially with your friends, versus, hey, you guys can watch me play this, you're like, why do I don't watch you play it?
Well, when you mentioned Ocean City, that's always a great time to play those 4-player games, because you got enough of us Rugrats running around that want to play. So you can, and again, The Simpsons was a great one for that.
And actually, that was I didn't get into The Simpsons, but that was crazy high rated in the 100 greatest arcade games. At least of the 80s. I don't know if it was the 80s or 90s, but that shocked me when I saw how high that was. I guess the playability and just how it connected with a lot of people.
So you played the Tron video game, I would presume. So yeah, that
Yeah,
was a good one.
it
I played
was,
the
but
hell out of that.
it was so freaking hard.
Yeah,
I
after
do
you get past the first level, it's pretty rough.
I do like I did like the cycle one. I didn't like the it was,
And there's three.
but the cabinet was so beautiful. Oh,
Ah, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And but yeah, when the 3 light cycles are on there, it was a help. But the 1 I can deal with, but the 3, that's just too much. That's giving me anxiety.
hey, a couple of things that I wrote down was, again, Space Invaders still being played today. Pac-Man still being played today. It has grossed $6 billion as a game, which through inflation, that's $20 billion today. And it's on the list I was mentioning earlier was it's first as the greatest game that, at least on the list that I read. Second, okay, sorry. No, number 8 was Miss Pac-Man. So it's a spawn of games from that original. We're just so good, and obviously people enjoyed it, and it connected. I think that's a really important part that we might be missing, and I apologize. But for the girls, for the ladies, connecting them and bringing them into the mix on arcade games, which is funny because we might not have actually paid attention to who we were standing next to, but again, like you said, the mall, place to meet, place to socialize, place to hang out with girls.
Spend your parents' money.
But yeah, let's see here. I got 1 Pac-Man, 2 Donkey Kong is what I wrote. 3 Space Invaders, 4 Galaga, 5 Street Fighter. And again, this is from the list that I wrote down. And let's see what it was. Asteroids was 7, which it reminds me of Jaws.
I play that game a lot.
I get so scared. I'm like,
I'm almost embarrassed at how much I still play that game on my at games. So.
It's such a phenomenal, so simple concept. Anyway,
yeah.
I thought this was neat because, again, in current culture, at least culture as we grew up, the Frogger was actually a Seinfeld episode with George trying to get across the road. I thought that was great.
Do you remember why? Because his high score was on there, and he had to keep power to it because that was the big thing. Because it's odd. Space Invaders was the first game that ever had a high score that saved.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then, right? Let's talk about that. High scores. Actually, they had a show about people who got really good at these games, had these high scores, and went on to, stardom in that type of industry or that genre of people that knew that stuff.
Well, they started having tournaments and stuff back in the day. But like the high score, I mean, that was a big deal. For games that I liked, they never unplugged those games at Jumpers Mall. So I could always go back to Gore for one of those other ones that I play a lot of, and there's CAS, still the 4th one. Nobody's beat me out on that one.
All right, I was going to ask you what you did. It was your initials, obviously.
Yeah, CAS. Others would put things like SEX or KIX or things like that. Because it was. Maryland,
I did CAV after a while because of what I did when I was in the military. But one of the things was, and by the way, I do have the high score in Galaga and at the Lake Tahoe arcade. And my kid actually saw it happen. And we went back there a couple of years later. It was still there. I'm like, yes. She thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
What's interesting? Well, think about Galaga. That was one of one of your early games, but that was also a game that had sort of Easter eggs in it or cheats. Oh. So I think in Galaga, it's something where you put your ship all the way over to the left and they won't shoot you. And then you can, and so that was kind of an interesting phenomenon in the early 80s because all the games had Easter eggs sort of built in. So there's a certain and most of the games had patterns like Pac-Man. I still have the first 4 screens in my brain. So I know exactly where to go, how long to wait in a certain area. And there was a lot of those phenomenon with those early games. So then you go to Walden Books, also in said mall, and get the cheat book. And then you go, left, right, left. That's how I'm going to get to where I need to go. But that's kind of wild, though. What do you think about it?
Interesting thing, because that was the culture later on with the home entertainment systems. There's even shirts out there that say left, left, right, left, right, left, left, or whatever cheat code you can get.
Whatever it takes to level up, that's just what you have to do. So,
hey, in the in the Stranger Things movie, they made it a point to say you can't put a full Mad Max initial or name in the game Dig Dug, and that's the kind of nitpicking that they did, and you had to pick 3. I just love that because it was always people would get to the end and they would go and they try to go all the way through the alphabet, and they have to go through there's like a dot and then something and something. Hurry!
You're on the clock. You're 30 seconds. You're on the clock.
Son of a dude! I got an A, and a dot in there.
So if you look at the ones we have on the screen right now, again, we're going to talk about our top 5 in just a second, but is there a game on the screen that gives you some sort of a visceral reaction? Like what I look at, track and field. I think back to, if you remember track and field, that was the game where you're hitting the buttons real fast, and like the height, you have the long jump, the sprint. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just absolutely beat the living shit out of those buttons back in the day. So I have that game on my machine, and I'm always thinking about that. It's like, man, do I want to give my buttons this kind of punishment like I used to do in the arcade game? But man, people would just tear that thing up. But what's a game on the screen that gives you sort of like some kind of a visceral reaction that, wow, I remember that game, or something strange about
it? There are a lot, actually. You're bringing up some crazy ones, because I had a very difficult time trying to whittle down my top 5 for just the 80s. Hopefully you'll ask me again to maybe do games of the 90s. But Commando, I absolutely loved, but I have it now in my back of my house, in my pavilion, and it's just a super annoying, crazy hard game. But I watched a video of a guy do the entire game, and I cannot replicate it. But yes, Spy Hunter was a beautiful, the music to it. Zaxxon was really wild. But again, Qbert. Well, I'll get to Qbert soon. But a lot of these games, when I watch them, I go, oh, I lost a lot of quarters to that.
Well, so those games you mentioned, though, sit down versions of those. So that was like an enhancement back in those days. So you have like the stereo sound, again, like the Outrun or Zaxxon or any of those other ones, where you could always kind of sit within it and really kind of have your like surround sound before surround sound was a thing.
Dragon's Lair. Oh yeah, there it is. Dragon's Lair was groundbreaking in its graphics. Whatever card or processor thing, and they did feature it in Stranger Things, and that was one of the first games I remember going, I'm not going to play that. I don't have that much money.
I used to get killed in that game. That was like the hardest game to control. It's like you hit the joystick and then something happens 2 seconds later. It's just the timing of it just never. I'd like to watch other people spend money on it and let them do it. But
I don't see Dig Dug here, and I know they and they might have used that, but super great. And then one of the things that I did look up the greatest arcade places of right now, and they did mention that there's locations, and you love this because you mentioned pinball, but Next Level Pinball Museum in Hillsboro, Oregon is apparently the greatest arcade location in America. But they have the other ones located in Washington, Florida, Illinois, North Carolina, Alabama, New Jersey, and Colorado. So
we have the Pinball Hall of Fame here in Vegas. It's got about 600 or 700 machines.
It's not on the list, buddy. It's not on the list.
Well, they need a better marketing guy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right. Okay, so but I did not get into drive. I know you mentioned Outrun and things like. I played them, but I never really got into driving or wrestling. Or wall breaking kind of games, like I mentioned, not into The Simpsons, and I did not like Centipede.
I've appreciated Centipede now is that it's at home because I don't waste as many quarters on it. So it's kind of the same concept of, okay, I can kind of learn this game a little bit better if I'm not pumping $5 into it, and that helped. And even Donkey Kong for that matter. I mean, I could always get like 4 screens deep in the arcade, but now I can go way past that since I have unlimited quarter access. But tell me what your top 5 is. I know I've been debating this for
All right.
weeks leading up to the show, but let me know what your top 5 is.
Okay, here's my top 5. Let me find it here. All right, so my top 5. That's a horrible. There it goes. Got to take the banner down. But
Right.
Q*bert, I actually enjoyed Q*bert. For some reason, it reminded me of some happy times when I was younger.
Yeah.
The characters, the sounds. So I enjoyed the fact that he and some of the other characters were featured in Wreck-It Ralph. In the upper right hand corner is Karate Champ.
Yes, it is.
I love that game.
I play that one. I play that one still. That's a fun one. And
I was
there's a
into
lot of
karate
patterns with that.
Yeah. I was into karate at the time, and it's just a great game to play against your buddy. And I love how everyone was ha. It was very slow.
Full point.
There you go. In the middle, I have Golden Axe. You mentioned that earlier, which I appreciate. Yeah. That was a great multiple person game, and the scrolling and the graphics, and I just hated when that little stupid thing would whip you and you'd lose your money. And
sure. We played this when you came to the house the last time, I believe.
Damn right we did. We did. And then I have Galaga, which I would consider my number 1. I love playing it. There are multiple pirate hack versions of it on our 17,000 game cabinets. Yes. There's even a beer one and a South Park one. I thought they were hilarious. And I love the extension of the new versions, the ones that the graphics are better and there's like a popping sound and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the fact that this was Atari 2600, come on. And then I guess my last top 5 would be Shinobi. Again, I was into karate, I was into ninjas, and I just love the scrolling thing you can do with the ninja. He jumps and he throws throwing stars and all kinds of stuff. So there you go.
It was state of the art at the time. Galaga, shout out to a former beer bar in Key West that we used to go to all the time. They had Galaga on their bar shirt, and they'd have Galaga tournaments like every month or something like that. So they had a true appreciation. But I want to be remiss and not share my top 5. So let me drop those up.
Please, sir.
My 5th of all time is Burger Time. And I will admit that until I had this in my house, this was not in my top 5. But this is one of those that I sort of got addicted to over time and then sort of developed the patterns. And, I start beating the high score that was factory preset and would take pictures of it like a dork. But, it's just one of those things.
And then get hungry and go get a burger.
Yeah, I really would. Because you're being chased around by pickles and other things like that. Joust, I mentioned, it was always a favorite in the arcade, and it's sure a lot higher on my list now that I don't have to put quarters in it at the house.
And there's a lot of button pushing with just the right amount of pushing just to get where you right.
Yeah, and then they had a Joust 2, which is okay. There's a little bit more of a variation where you can change your ostrich to a lion or something like it's a lot, but it's harder to fly. It's all kinds of ins and outs and what have yous. Tapper, I thought that was a pretty good prophecy for the rest of my life as far as one of my hobbies. But Tapper was a great game. I always associate this with this was a game that was in my mom's bar where she used to work. So I usually would sit there and wait for Dad to come pick me up, and I'd just be learning Tapper and just be killing that machine. Elvira
very well featured in Wreck-It Ralph. It was, but yeah, you're like, stop throwing the stuff so fast.
Even the Silver Stamp, which is an amazing beer bar in downtown Vegas here, they have some vintage games and they have a free Tapper machine there. So any Vegas people that watch it, head down to the Silver Stamp and you don't have to pay to play Tapper. I mean, what a deal. Plus great beer. Elvira Pinball. So I am again a huge pinball guy, but Elvira was at Jumpers Mall, and I can't tell you how many free games I just racked up on that, because ramps that you could just pound. I mean, you just get into the zone. I'm hitting the same ramp 10, 11 times, hitting 10 million points.
Like the lady that wears all the black?
That's her.
Oh.
That's her. Yep. So that was a beautiful thing there. And then my number one of all time, kind of a one-off, is Gorf. Did you ever play Gorf?
I don't recall Gorf.
So Gorf was it came out about 83-ish, and what it is, it's basically 5 games in one. So like the first part of it is a Space Invaders-ish kind of thing. The second is like a laser attack, and that's these straight lines coming down at you. The third thing is like Galaxian. So you know that game, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The fourth component was these things kind of spiraling out of a black hole, so you got to shoot them. And then the fifth component was this flagship, so it's going back and forth, and you got to shoot through the shield and then eventually blow that up. But the kind of cool part about it was they would rank you. So you'd start out as a space cadet, and then you go to space captain, and then and the little light would be on the machine, so you see, and you go all the way up to space avenger. But the machine would talk trash to you as well, like, "Oh, bad move, space cadet." I always appreciated the fact that I was getting trash talked by the machine while I was pumping quarters into it.
But you're getting affirmation, right?
Yes, yes. Well. But yeah, so Gorf, I think, is still my all-time favorite. I played it last night just to make sure it still was, and it still is. So that's always good. Right. But that's my top 5.
Wow, so. Very different. And I 3 of those I don't think I really enjoyed playing or ever played at all.
Yeah, there's some good ones on there, and again, it's nice. You probably have it somewhere on your machine behind you there, so maybe you can look it up over your quiet weekend.
So one of the things I wanted to, I know we're pressing on the time here. I didn't know that Atari was attached to Chuck E. Cheese, which used to be called Pizza Time Theater. I thought that was interesting piece of information. And that, and by the way, I love Pitfall.
So Jungle King was the rip-off version of that in the arcade, if you remember.
Oh my gosh. And then Coleco, we've mentioned it a few times on the show. Yeah, I never knew this. It stands for Connecticut Leather Company.
What?
Yes, it's a Connecticut Leather Company.
Wow.
I thought it was like an Asian, Tokyo, Japanese company, but it's the Connecticut Leather Company, and they were the ones that were into the Cabbage Patch. So
interesting. That's true, yeah. Now that I think back on it. Well, you got to diversify your portfolio. That's what Wu-Tang Clan said.
Dude, we didn't even get into the whole Crash and Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. and yeah. So tons of stuff. Maybe for show part 2, maybe.
Yep.
So let's close this thing out with some music. Yeah. All right.
That's right. Yeah, we're a mixtape podcast, but we haven't talked about music, so maybe we should throw a few hot picks in there. So we're thinking about this recurring segment where we throw out kind of our top 5 picks from the era, and we're spanning 80s and 90s, but sort of leaning towards the older stuff. But Paul, what's your top 5 recommendations out there that people can check out?
All right, well, so it's been again, it's a lot. They're going to be, hopefully we'll have lots and lots of shows. So I will mention these because they just happen to be on my playlist. I've been really into some apps out there that dig into the B-sides of 80s songs. Mm-hmm. So I found these Visions in Blue by Ultravox from 82, the Dream Academy, and New Light, Johnny New Light. And then I've been really listening to some deeper dives on Genesis, Home by the Sea from 83. And then I had this apparently a kind of a dance, kind of get funky one again. I had Just Got Paid by Johnny Kemp in there. And then there's been a revival of songs that I might hear. And I don't think I've ever actually listened to that completely through, and that's where Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac from '87 comes in. So just 5, and
that's not bad.
I'll have 5 new ones next show.
So what platform do you use to listen to your tunes? You a Spotify guy or?
Well, and I'll tell you this, and the audience is I was not that much into like rock or heavy metal or hair bands. I kind of made fun of them for a little while, but then I got into them. I've loved Rush forever, and Charlie and his buddies, they introduced me to some interesting, like Faster Pussycat and Dangerous Toys and Kicks, and I got more into it. And I have more of appreciation for lots of different music today. I was a bit of a follower back in high school, and now I have a wide variety of interests. So I listen to well, let me see if I can. It's Hairband Radio. I listen to Hairband Radio on it's like a Toronto Cast streaming app or whatever, and and I also listen to 80s Forever Radio, which features all the B-sides and stuff, blah blah blah. So and I tell you honestly, I might listen to 20 songs, and out of those 20 songs, I go, I've heard it before. I already own it, and I love it. Blah blah blah. But there's that one that creeps in. What is that? And it catches my ear, and then I go, all right, I gotta hear it again. Oh, I do like it. I'm downloading it.
Yeah, the associated artist button is always nice. I actually use Napster. I was an old school pirate.
Oh my! You still use Napster?
So it evolved into Rhapsody, which then turned into the paid site Napster. But the thing, and again, people laugh at me because I have an AOL account too. So give me a little bit of grace here. Yeah. But I will tell you, like you just said, I mean, they have everything. You can go way deep into catalogs. I discover things like you mentioned Dangerous Toys. Jason McMaster, who's the lead singer for Dangerous Toys, I discovered accidentally one day that he did some kind of project where he sung for the Dirty Looks lead singer, which I don't know if you're familiar with them, but the lead singer passed away of cancer a few years prior. So the Dangerous Toys singer got himself involved in this project and did an amazing job. But again, I would never know that if it wasn't for streaming services. I wouldn't go to a record store and find that kind of stuff. So there's a certain value to that. But as far as my 5 picks for the week, so Peekaboo by Devo. I'm a huge Devo fan from growing up. Right now, there's actually a new Netflix documentary that just dropped this week for Devo, and it's amazing. If you have Netflix and you don't have anything to watch on this long weekend, check the documentary out. It really kind of gives you an extra layer of Devo, and again, if you're a fan, you'll certainly appreciate it. And thanks, Paul, for segueing into Kicks for me. So Cold Blood.
Shocker.
It's very surprising. Kicks, a very prominent Baltimore band of yesteryear who recently retired. They did their last show in 2023 in Maryland. They did the smart route. When Steve's voice started to go, he said, "I'm just going to retire." Versus like what Slaughter does. I love Slaughter in the day, but now he's doing nothing but slaughtering eardrums out there. I've sat in on it. I loved him in the day, but hang it up, Mark. Anyway, next one is Somebody Save Me by Cinderella. Today I was listening to Cinderella and just thinking back on those first 4 albums that they put out. The Tom Kiefer band's even viable these days. We've seen them here in Vegas a couple times, but still love to go back to that Night Songs album, and then the Somebody Save Me video, and the night. There were so many good songs that were on that particular one. One-off, I Wish You Were a Beer by the Cycle Sluts from Hell. Again, if you haven't heard that, not only do they have this hit single, but also By the Balls is also a toe tapper. So if you ever look up Cycle Sluts from Hell on your streamer, make sure you at least listen to those 2 songs.
How would you not look those up?
I mean, it's catchy.
Yeah.
Trust me, the song won't take long. And then finally, Come Along by Salty Dog. So kind of, again, one of those little one-offs. Atlee, our mutual friend from a long time back, he's a huge Salty Dog fan. We actually, with our little garage band project that we were trying to do back in 1989, we did a pretty damn good version of this song. Back when I had like a little falsetto thing going on and I could actually sing versus whatever I do these days. But if you've never heard of Salty Dog, put it in your streamer. Listen to that album, that first album. It was just amazing, and that's the only one they ever had, so it's going to be easy to find. But that's my 5 picks for the week. Look them up. You got a 3-day weekend, so get in your streamer and listen to those damn things, and let's get to rocking out.
Dang! All right. Well, I'm gonna have to go back and click on the banners and check out some of these songs. I think I just, you know how you got Shazam on your phone and you can Shazam stuff, and you're like, I don't know, you collect it that way. I think I downloaded, because I just went to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, and I was going to go, man, I need some songs just to listen to as I'm hiking for eight days. Yeah, well, that's a mandatory one that you have to sing at the summit. Right. But yeah, I think I downloaded like 650 songs nice. and loaded up an MP3 player. Oh my gosh, yes, good stuff. All right. Well,
I think we're at the end of the line, sir.
I think we are too. Let's wrap this thing up, man.
Well, quick reminder to everybody. Again, make sure, as you find this, make sure you like us, subscribe, and then remember, you get this hot new sticker literally just off the presses that you can put on the back of your phone to remind you on a weekly basis to come back and listen to the podcast. But Paul, you want to take us home?
I do. All right, our time is up, my friends. Our podcast moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop, and like Charlie said, subscribe once in a while, you could miss it. But don't worry, be happy. We'll be back. Like Jason Voorhees, thank you so much for tuning in. Charlie and Paul signing off.
Have a great week.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go home. Go.